Ready? You on? You, okay. We're here, Sam's here, I'm here, Helen's here. Town council consideration of fiscal year 23-24 municipal budget. Laura, you're up.
Made the changes that we had agreed, or you had allowed me to change for
Yep.
$12,000, so the budget came down $12,000. Basically, it's, do you have any questions? And if not, then we would just move it to public hearing.
There were
Proceed.
some other things that we didn't get to last time, but I wanted to.
Okay.
Say I wanted to change this. Which I don't know if we have to vote on that, but get to the right.
You just tell us what page you're on. In this budget, not the capital projects, or
Not capital projects. It is the money that we're giving to people, the agency,
Community organizations.
community organizations.
I think that's 25. On page 20.
It's Department 25. right?
Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
Department 25, page 20.
Okay, under the community services. The Southern Rhode Island Volunteers. I don't know anybody who's used them at all. But people do use warm. In my volunteer stuff, we use warm regularly, so. I've either reduced that 1,500 for Southern Rhode Island Volunteers and then increase warm to 1,000. Be a total of 500 less. I never hear anybody using Southern Rhode Island Volunteers.
Is there spreadsheet of what we've given them over the years?
It's right there. The history of it is from 21, basically.
750.
It's 750.
It's always been 750.
Um,
Do they take it? Do they use?
Yeah,
It gets used, right?
the agency actually is a does a lot of transportation for people who need it.
Oh, okay. So when someone needs to get to the doctor or get to
Doctor or
grocery
groceries
store
or.
whatever, okay.
Right.
When they submit the request, do they submit why they're increasing it?
I can go upstairs and
I probably have it if we scanned it.
we did.
Stand by.
Because I don't know of anybody in Richmond who knows about them being available to give rides.
Which is why we have our human services coordinator.
Right.
Could also let them know if they're listening right now.
So the first question is, how does your organization benefit Richmond residents? Do the benefits target a specific age group, gender, or income level? It says, yes, senior citizens mainly, but also residents interested in volunteer opportunities who are required to be 13 years or older by Southern Rhode Island Volunteers. Low-income seniors receive services through our Independent Aging Services Program, which is the program supported by this appropriations request. Seniors are residents of Richmond 60+ years of age or 55 years of age or older with a disability that challenges independence. Seniors have little or no resources of personal assistance, such as family or friends in the area. Seniors have challenges with access, transportation, food security, nutrition, delivery of food and transportation, chronic health challenges that must be addressed to support healthy aging, independence, physical challenges, limited physical ability to take care of snow shoveling of a walk and other such home safety needs.
So they say how many in Richmond they've helped.
Yes, that is. Page that's turned sideways. You know what? I think that page is missing. Isn't that usually the last page, Laura?
Yeah, I.
There's like
also-
page, oh, are you looking at it too?
I can go up and get the paper copy in case it didn't scan in.
There is a page where we ask number of Richmond
And
residents.
how much you're requesting. And I'll run upstairs on that. You can. go.
Possible they didn't submit it, but it's also possible it didn't get scanned. Mark said he's on the way.
I have a question, Helen. Give a sec. Did the warm center reach out to you and ask for more?
No. No, but I just know from my volunteer work that they do help Richmond people. The other one, I have not heard of anybody actually getting help from the other organization.
Maybe some people just don't say it.
Right.
Maybe they don't. So if anybody's listening, maybe they could send me an email.
So according to Warm's application, they service in FY 22, they serviced 53 Richmond residents. Now, it doesn't say whether it's 53 separate individuals or 53 contacts.
Like households.
The same
Yeah.
people, well, like 53 could be the same
Oh.
people multiple times.
Right.
And then it said in FY 23, it said 20 people were served from July to present, which was, I believe this was in December. So they were on target for like 40. Looks like, just to give you an idea, like they service a few more in Charlestown, like where the year we were 53, Charlestown was 69. Westerly was over 2,300. North Stonington was 550. For Stonington.
Yeah, we're a small percentage, and we're only 13% of RICAM's usage as well.
Yeah,
I just think the community service companies, nonprofits had the opportunity to submit what they wanted. And Warm asked for 500, so I'm totally okay with giving them 500. But
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
I don't know about shift. I don't know about
$1,500, that's
right. They requested 1,500, so that's why I'm hoping we can maybe see why they requested the jump. But I don't know about shifting it around. Might be.
I don't care about not giving it to
All right.
them, but I would not like to give it to somebody that I don't know that they're getting used.
This is the numbers for children volunteers.
did we have?
It was on the
that
back
page?
side.
Oh, gotcha.
Does it
Yes.
say how many people?
Yeah, right at the top right hand is 175.
It says estimated, that means estimated, oh, estimated, oh, 175? Okay, that's more than I expected.
Promise to be late.
It's all right.
I wasn't feeling well today, didn't go to work.
We shift it back now.
Good play hooky. Okay, we wouldn't have scored it.
Yeah.
Sad. Oh,
This is my copy.
no, that's the capital, that's the capital one, that's the town one. There's no,
But that's your copy of your agenda, and I think that was on. at his
those two
desk.
pieces. of
Yeah,
paper are
those
there.
are two things. I apologize. Did I interrupt anybody? No.
We're waiting for numbers.
We were just waiting for numbers. We got numbers for 175 people served on Southern Rhode Island volunteers. And they were asking for 1,500 and Helen was questioning that, so.
Now that we have the number,
Is Mike here?
no,
Not as of yet.
I remembered it, but I was sick today. I can tell by my voice.
So Helen, what are you proposing for?
we'll just leave it. Leave it.
All right, so we're gonna leave it as is. I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Any other,
I don't have any other questions. Helen, did you say you had a couple other questions?
was,
You want mine, Mark, and I'll go print another one? Do you need?
He can have mine.
Okay.
You know, my heart.
No, but I have a computer in front of me, thank you.
Yeah, my wife has my computer today and I was.
so. Ray Juliet emailed us, and since we're here and we're in discussion,
What page do you want?
it's just in regards to the email that Ray Juliet sent us.
Okay.
Because nobody else has any questions in regards to the
Right.
budget and the numbers, so we might as well have a conversation about what was Juliet proposed.
I don't think it's appropriate to have it now, is it? Is that on the agenda?
We're discussing the budget
What we're discussing.
and the
budget.
question about the budget.
Yeah, I just think that 10% is a adequate amount to carry over in the unassigned fund. Rather than 16%. You have the email, so.
I read it.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I have it. I also,
We did discuss that the last budget meeting.
Right,
And most professional accounting organizations do recommend 16%.
okay, well,
I know you have the fund balance policy. This is the guidelines from the government finance office.
right, I read that.
Oh, okay,
I read
okay.
that. The 2022 budget, Ms. Kenyon wrote that a 10% balance is a healthy balance. To go forward with, that was in your review of the 2022 budget.
Because we didn't have any more.
You had 17% in that budget.
That's fine. I'm open to whatever the council wants to do.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is up to the council. It's not up to me to persuade you.
right. I think that's why.
It's up to the council to discuss it,
I think that's why Vice President Sadie brought it up, so we could discuss it.
right?
my biggest concern is that, you have it says it right here, and I'll read it so people who are listening can hear it. Nevertheless, the GFOA recommends at a minimum that general purpose governments, regardless of size, maintain unrestricted budgetary fund balance in their general fund of no less than 2 months of regular fund operating revenues or regular general fund operating expenditures. So that being said, those numbers, if we decide to lower our fund balance, where are we gonna make up that money next year? If
You maintain a
There's a-
10% fund balance every year. Just like you're doing now with 16 or 17.
so, if we took that 1.7 that is there in your email,
Taxpayer money,
taxpayer money, and we send that back out to the,
taxpayers.
let's just say that it's all 8,000 people. That's about.
Well, 2,500 about households
Okay,
and then businesses.
so that number. 1.7. Divided by, what do we say? 2,500? $680. Okay.
Yep.
At the close of all of it, then Laura at next year, when we have to make up something, because we have our financial obligations. Where are we gonna make up that money? Instead of depleting it on one
You're
side
not
of the.
depleting it, Rich, you're gonna maintain a 10% fund balance. It's a healthy amount. Ms. Kenyon said it was a healthy amount.
May
She
I,
stated that was a healthy amount. How is it not healthy
Right.
now?
Now let Laura
Okay.
explain it so that it's understandable, because I'm not gonna jeopardize the town's financial standing and put us into a bind, even at 10%, with our taxes going up because of the school constantly going up, why am I gonna put myself into that bind? And then have to raise additional funds the next year, because I can't raise my prices on the town like I can do in my own business. If I have a shortfall, I can raise my prices on something and I can make up that difference. I can't do that,
Yes, you
In-
can. That's
in
what,
the town.
that's what towns do.
right? It's called
When
raising
they
taxes.
when they don't have money, they raise the taxes.
And we don't need to raise the taxes again. Our budget this year, we're not raising our municipal budget.
Rich, all I'm saying is, I'm pointing out that the financial director said 10% was a healthy amount to carry forward.
So Laura, what,
We're carrying 16. 6% should go back to the rightful owners, the taxpayers.
He sent it about like 2 hours ago, I want to say, so you may not have seen it.
My question isn't necessarily the level of fund balance at the moment. My question is, if we use money out of fund balance. Say we use them, anything, $1 million, $500,000. That is one-time money. That $500,000 is gone. It's our savings, so we have 16% or $4 million in savings.
4.7.
Right, we use $1 million, wait,
3 million.
excuse me, if we use $1 million of it as a revenue source. Next year, where am I getting that $1 million from? I'd have to raise taxes $1 million. Because my fund balance is at that 10%. I don't have it to replenish.
That doesn't even make sense.
Uh,
You wouldn't have to raise taxes. People are paying their taxes now.
No, so if I didn't raise it right now, I have $24 million in taxes,
Right.
okay? And that, if I used fund balance, then I'd only have to raise $23 million in taxes.
You're gonna carry that 16% again next year. All I'm saying is this year, instead of carrying 16, carry 10.
Right,
And
and
you're gonna
that's,
carry the same 10 next year
right, but that 10 is $3 million.
that
Right?
you're not gonna use.
No, I
It's for an emergency.
no, that's not my issue. The issue is the $1 million I used. I took $1 million out of the savings
That you
account.
weren't gonna use, that you weren't gonna spend.
Can I interrupt for a minute? All
I
right,
can't
you're
explain.
badgering a town employee. Please don't do that. Just talk. Thank you.
Okay,
So if I use $1 million and I call it fund balance, use of fund balance.
Mhm.
Next year, do I have that $1 million in the budget?
no, you don't.
No, so my taxes would have to go back to the $24 million to be a level funded budget. My budget uses 24 million. I'm going to take $1 million off. Next year, I have to go back to the 24 million. So I'm going to have to raise taxes next year by what I use in fund balance, which is why it's nice to have an amount, but not drop it so substantially that you have to raise those taxes the next year. If I have a surplus in this year's budget, then that money will offset that $1 million. But we're getting tighter and tighter to coming up with a balanced expense to revenue budget. We've been lucky in some of our state aid that came in and American Rescue money, where we've had some surpluses. But if you are balanced budget and you take in your revenue and you spend them and you have no additional surplus, then we're going to have to raise the taxes, that $1 million that we used, because it's a one-time revenue source. If you want to use that $1 million, lower fund balance and put it into one-time expenses, let's do another $1 million of roads. Let's do $1 million of capital equipment to get it to the 10%. That I think would be a little more prudent than putting it against taxes for 1 year that you would then have to raise the taxes the next year. That's just my opinion. It is up to the council.
well, even that would not be a bad idea because the interest on the bond for the roads, it's gonna be a lot. If you
It's-
cut $1 million off the bond for the roads, that would save a lot of interest. Save $1 million.
I think she's saying put an
Another
additional
additional
$1 million
million
in,
into
not
capital.
substitute for the bond.
You could substitute for the bond and borrow 1.5 instead of 2.5. That's, but I would
If we
think
bought-
that it would be better off to be spent towards a one-time item than offsetting your tax revenue.
If we borrowed from ourselves, it would be cheaper. If we borrowed from our own fund balance, it would be cheaper than borrowing from the bank, correct?
Yeah, the bank is about 3.5% right.
And we're zero.
And where's it, well, we would never borrow it, we would never give it back, we're going to use it if. And that's what I say, you can use it for anything, but I would prefer, not that but I think it'd be more prudent to use it towards a one-time item to get down to that lower fund balance, if that's where you want that fund balance to be.
You should do it gradually,
Excuse
not
me.
16 to 10%.
That would be up to the council, Mark, for you guys to decide if you wanted to change the policy, because the policy clearly states 15 to 20%. So you would have to change the policy.
And right now it's at 16%.
And I don't see a need to change it. I don't see a need to put ourselves into a financial strain, just like a few years ago, the school department gave the town back, how much was it, 130,000? It was something about 130,000, 150,000 that they gave this, the town back. And at the time, I think it was Kelly that was the financial director, and she made the statement, I'm gonna put this money here in this pot, and we're gonna not touch it. We're not gonna put it back into the fund. We're not gonna.
I think we
And we
spread
still
the
have
use of it out,
No, we
right?
still have it. We still
Because-
have it, but it has restrictions. It's
It
about
is a rest-
$110,000.
Right.
And it is only if state aid goes down.
And we use it to go back to. the
We would be
school.
able to use it only for the school,
Right,
only under the contingency that the state aid is cut.
right.
I
because
think
there were-
even before that, there was a big pot of money that we got back and we spread out the
You
use of
did
it
use
over
it.
3 years, because if you use it all up at one time, it's like you create a structural deficit for the following year.
Right, and that's what we had discussed. There were some members that wanted to take that money and put it right back into the general fund. And there were others that looked at it and said, if you do that, you're gonna have to tax again to get back to that, whatever it was, 130 or 150 or 300,000. I forget what the number was. It was a significant amount of money. And we decided to keep it for the school and stretch it out so that we didn't have to rob Peter to pay Paul again. Because that would have been a financial nightmare. We would have raised taxes again because of the school, but we didn't.
And I think it allows you to have a steadier,
So the
instead of
trajectory.
a lot of this.
Right. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate it. And I see how you would like to do it, but doing that, we're gonna create ourselves a financial deficit later on. We're gonna give you back $150 and you're gonna go spend it. And then next year, we're gonna go, well, we really need 300 now because we need to keep our fund balance at this amount of money. We've had multiple emergencies where, thank God that we had the ARPA money. We had $500,000 that we needed for the radio tower. What if we didn't have that money? Then guess where we'd be taking it from? We'd be taking it from our fund balance. So it's a short-term gain, a very short-term gain. Not looking at the long game for what can possibly happen. We got a lot of things that are going on. We got the water chlorination system. We have the fire towers. We have a lot of projects. Thankfully, that ARPA is gonna pay for. If we didn't have that, we would be SOL.
Is any of the fund balance in an interest-bearing account where we're making money off of money?
We are.
How much are we making off of that 1.7 million every year about?
Oh, well, it's about 4%, 4.5%. It has to be fully insured. That's the issue. It has to be totally collateralized and fully insured, so I don't have the option to put it in a non-insured instrument, which would have more money, but, yeah, it's up to 4.5 when it was 0, so. And the other side, it's not all cash.
I think what Ray's point is that this year is, well, last year and this year, we're seeing unprecedented economic times. And if the taxpayers could be given a break, you should give every consideration to giving the taxpayers a break. If Ms. Kenyon said that 10% was a healthy fund balance, you know, in light of, because the school budgets are gonna keep getting passed every single year. I mean, the schools came out in full force. We all saw it last week. So how are we gonna ever offset that if we don't give the taxpayers a reprieve? If you have money left over that could be given back to the taxpayers to give them a reprieve, then I think that you should seriously consider it.
I appreciate the sentiment, I really do, because I'm a taxpayer myself, I pay $7,800 a year. But $150 this year is not gonna help me $300 next year. And all of our department, that's the whole thing, is that this year you get this little tiny kickback, you get this little bit of money that comes back, but next year, when there's a shortfall, guess what? That fund balance has to be taken care of, and that number is going to be more than what it is this year. So if I give you 300 this year, I'm gonna have to take 300, excuse me, if I take 150 this year, I'm gonna have to give $300 next year. Just to be even, just to come back. So you level funded, the school was level funded last year. What did they do? They came back with a 6% increase. Granted, they knocked it down to 1.76 or 96. But that's what happens. You create that void. That void needs to be filled. And if you don't do it, then what ends up happening is that void gets bigger the next year. All the department heads, 0 increase. All of our departments went 0 increase. The only increase that we got is our contractual obligations to the police and to the employees. But all the departments went 0. They level funded themselves. That's an amazing town. When Scott, who has the biggest chunk of money, or one of the biggest chunks of money, says, we're not going to ask for any more money. That's pretty impressive. And they still do a superb job. Top of the line.
I don't think anybody is disputing that the town doesn't do a superb job or Public Works doesn't do a superb job. I think that we're looking at these budgets in increments of 1 year, and I have a problem with that. I think we should be looking at these budgets in increments of a 3-year forecast, just like we asked the schools for a 3-year forecast. What are we going to be looking at for the town of Richmond in 3 years? What are we going to be looking at for the school obligation in the next 3 years? And it doesn't seem like there is, and this is no disrespect to Laura, and maybe I haven't seen it, but I would love to know where we're going in terms of these budgets. in
We
the
have a
next 3
5-year
years.
plan.
So, well, we have a 5-year capital.
Right.
We also have a 5-year that I have to give the state every year. So honestly, next year is really, really tough. Which is another reason why I didn't use more fund balance. I see that the school budget is using minimal fund balance to keep it at the 2.25. Honestly, right there are the fund balance that we used to use for school. Last year was almost 800,000. This year it's only 150. Well, if they don't have fund balance next year, I know I have to make up that 150 already with a level funded budget. Even the 39,000 that I used this year, I'm going to need that. So that's almost $200,000 that's going to come out of fund balance next year just to get us to where we are. But I also see, as a lot of the federal money goes away, our budgets are going to get tighter. And if inflation doesn't come down, our budgets are going to get tighter. That is also another reason why in this atmosphere, in this environment, I don't say the 10% is as good a fund balance, maybe 3 years ago? Whenever it was that I said 10%.
6 months ago. It was the review of the 2022 budget.
This
I'd
is
have
the
to listen to
24
that
budget
again.
we're on right now.
But the
But
review came out
the
in
audit-
July of 2022,
I mean, the audit, the financial report,
the financial report.
I'd have to review what I said. It wasn't, because I've always been one of proponent of higher, but I may have, but it wasn't anything.
My concern is that we've,
But just to continue, so I do look, I have to, it's required that in July, when this budget gets passed, I have to then take it and project for the next 5 years. Not that I know what the school is going to project. But I do take, and I basically, honestly, I've been taking a 2% increase to the school budget. And the reason I did that is I know we have a max of 4. So
Right.
I'm like, well, I'll give the school 2 when I do my projection, and it affords me an increase of 2%. And what does it do to my fund balance and my taxes? Basically, is we can go up to the 4% tax levy. I never want to have to do that, just as we didn't this year. We didn't use any tax money for the town side of the budget. We only used it for the approved school budget. So, yes, I do look at 5 years when I do it.
And I think we all realize that the portion of our property taxes for the town is only 24% compared to the schools. But from a taxpayer's perspective, when we hear somebody like Gina Picard in a budget hearing say that they got a windfall this year from the state at $759,000 that they didn't have last year, that they now have this year. And then when we hear perhaps you or others say that you've gotten money from the federal government, it's like money keeps coming in, but we keep doling out. And when is it ever going to be beneficial for the taxpayer to ever see some reprieve? We just don't see it.
Which again goes back to why the municipal side of the budget has no additional tax revenue.
may I?
Yes.
So, school budget was level funded 1 year and we did a knockdown job keeping the school budget under control this year. But eventually, unless we change the way we structurally do the school budget, unfortunately, we're gonna get hit with an increase. It's gonna come. Something's gonna happen, something's gonna come along, and that school budget is gonna need to climb more than 1.4% or 0%. So then the town gets hit. I mean, a 16% fund balance is maybe a little high, but going from 16 to 10 is on the drastic side. And I'm not an accounting professional like Ms. Kenyon. But I have run multi-million-dollar budgets for hospitals. And when you take a drastic turn or a drastic change in a budget, you end up paying for it someplace. I could see some sort of moderate reduction in the fund balance, but I can't see a 5 or 6% drop in fund balance. To me, that would be irresponsible and reckless on the reckless side. That's my own 2 cents.
Well, if we did something in the middle, like if we did 2% less, make it a 14% fund balance, that would give the taxpayers a little something.
Yeah.
I know the value of my house went up a lot.
Oh,
On
yeah.
one hand, I'm kind of honored that the value went up. On the other hand, my taxes are gonna go up even with the lower tax rate.
With what we're at my house, it's $4 a week. I did the math. So for mine went up just like everybody else's went up. I pay taxes just like everybody else pay taxes.
Yep.
And with the rate that is being proposed, including the school budget and the new evaluation on my home.
Yep.
$4 a week is what my taxes are gonna be going up personally. And I know that everybody's gonna be different, but you know, everyone has different values in their home and
Right,
buy
so-
what they can
So that for,
afford.
so $52. You know, for a couple of $100 a year increase of taxes. If we drop the fund balance by 2%, then maybe you'd be paying the same thing this year as you paid last year.
May
Go
I
ahead.
have the budget that I gave you? I have the numbers.
Everyone's,
No, they were actually written on
Oh,
mine.
okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Um,
I mean, I'm all
So
for it. I want
basically,
a break too.
basically, if we stayed within fund balance policy right now, okay, 15%. We could increase. We can discuss $321,000. It's on that last page, this page of fund balance. However, to keep no taxes, we need 228,000. That would be no tax increase. We would absorb the school increase. If we did that, we still have to come up with that $228,000 next year. Because we're using it towards taxes.
Right, so they would,
So-
people would have a relief for this year, and next year they'll have the same, won't
So-
be more because.
No,
you-
No, so next year we would actually have to raise taxes right off the bat. $134,000. Because we could use another 93. If we can use 321 to stay to the 15%.
Mhm.
And we use 228. So that there's no tax increase. Then there's still another $94,000 of that reserve to get to the 15%. But to get back to where we need to be, would be raising taxes 135,000 to get to the same level that we are now. Just information.
So to use Rich's example, right, if we if we use some of that money to lower taxes this year, maybe you save 150, like you said, these are just numbers out of the air, right? But next year, to get back to the same amount, you're gonna get to 300 just to get back to the same amount,
Yeah,
and
but
then
you
you,
wouldn't want to get back to 16, you want to stay at 15, so you wouldn't be doing a catch-up to
Right.
get you back to 16, you'd be leaving it at 15.
Right, but even if you left it at 15, that's what I'm saying, even if you left it at 15,
Yeah.
you'd have to raise taxes 134.
Okay,
Okay, I'm just saying, yeah.
all right.
You rob Peter to pay Paul.
With anybody, you're lowering the balance by 1%, 1.2%.
You're talking
The
a
fund
couple,
balance.
we're literally talking about a couple of dollars a month.
Yep.
Like almost dollars, not like in a fun figure, so we're talking $4 a week.
Every place that you can
Yeah,
save the
I get that, but
taxpayer
the-
money,
But the years following. Wages go up. Fuels and energies and
I'm not
everything,
saying we're
insurances
gonna-
go up. Those are all the things that have to be taken into.
I'm not saying that we
into
won't
account.
have to raise taxes. Those things will
Right,
happen,
but
but we
taking,
can keep them to a minimum.
okay,
I don't see a problem if we dropped it down to the 15%. I mean, if we drop it to 15%, leave it at 15%, every little bit helps. I just don't want to do a 10% thing, a 12% thing. To me, that's reckless.
Well, 15%, like I said, 15% is within the policy, that's where.
Yeah.
That's the minimum, as it's written. 15%, we don't actually have to go to the 15% to have no tax increase.
Right.
It would be less, we only need the 228. To offset the school tax increase this year. And that would still allow us 100 of that 228. And stay at the 15% next year.
Perfect.
Good.
So
We did
100 of the 228, but you still have to come up with 134. You automatically know if you level funded, everybody level funded, everything was absolutely the same, nothing
Yeah.
increased, anything else. You're going to raise taxes next year, $134,000. I'm just.
Okay.
Right, which is why I would like to leave it the way it is, the way it was suggested, personally. I appreciate you bringing it up, Counselor Sheehan, but I just wanna keep it the way it is.
I'd like to bring it to the minimum. And the minimum that's within our policy. To me, $4 makes a difference to a lot of families. Maybe not to you. You're a professional, your husband's a professional. I'm a professional, my wife's a professional. and so on and so on and so on. But there are people that don't fit into that realm, and it's just we're talking a slice, but we're talking a responsible slice and not a chop. That's how I feel about it. I feel that we can do. It's a figure, it's a number. It's telling people that we feel their pain. It's telling people that we're scrutinizing things and we can just make a small change, which shows that we really. Who said goodwill? Yes, it shows goodwill.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, you know, being in or at or below the median income for the
Right,
town, that's where I'm at. But
right.
my personal experience aside, I don't want to see the increase next year and the having to catch up from that next year. And that's just where I stand.
So I don't see any reason why you'd have to catch up, because we're taking out of savings. We're not taking out of, not as if you're trying to have to refill your savings, because you're gonna leave it at 15. You're not catching up.
I can throw something else out there. I know that there's a whole bunch of people in town who'd rather have us not chop the fund balance and fix some of the roads around. The roads are in rough shape in a lot of areas. They're like moonscape. I bought a Corvette and I thought I was going to break some rims.
Yeah.
I'm not being overly dramatic. I mean, is it all about saving $4 a month, or is it about running a town property? So I mean, I could make an argument for just about any scenario. I
So,
just,
am I explaining it right, though? If this year we go -4, right? Then next year we have to get back to that. And if we're gonna have any increase at all, we're gonna go up. So if
Correct.
this year's -4, next year's gonna be +8.
Why is that? If you're gonna. lower-
Because it's a one-time, your budget is ongoing. It's not like you
Yeah.
used it for a one-time thing. It's not like you used it for a truck.
Right, so.
And you're not gonna need a truck next year. It's like funding you're gonna need a truck every year now because you put it in the budget.
Right.
But your savings, you didn't touch your savings and you can't touch your savings anymore.
Right,
Is the best way I could put it. But you borrowed from it for something that you're going to have to pay for year after year after year. Because once you put it into your operating budget, it's continuous. It's in perpetuity at a
And do we-
level,
do
at a
we
level
have-
fund unless we cut our
do we
budget.
have that, is it something called maintenance of effort for the town? I
No,
thought that was.
no, but it is, but you would have to cut you would either cut the budget by the 134 from what it is now.
Right, you go back to what it would have been this year, so it's 130.
No, that you still have to come up with that 134.
It's
You
a
would cut it,
percentage.
you would have to cut next year's budget by what we used of fund balance. So you would have to cut the town's budget. 200.
because the fund balance is a percentage, not an amount.
Good
Right?
amount.
And that's also assuming that there's no new businesses in town, that you have to make up the 134,000. So I mean, in light of the EDCs.
Right.
Recommendations for economic development being fast-tracked. You also have to look at, you know, are there gonna be any other new businesses that are gonna come into town between now and next year's budget, process? That, I'd like to be optimistic about that. So, listen, there were a few of you that ran on a platform of being mindful of taxes in town. And I think that this year is a year, in light of what just happened last week and the reevaluation and everything going on, that if you can cut the fund balance to a healthy amount to 15%, that's responsible. If for Samantha, that's $4 a week and she can afford it, then that's $4 a week and she can afford it. But there may be people who can't. I mean, we were outside all day last week. Many, many people came up to us. Rich, you weren't there all day. We heard them. They said that they were really worried about having to put their houses on the market because of the reevaluation, inflation, the school budget increasing, and maybe the town budget increasing. That's a quadruple whammy to some people. You can't look at it in isolation, just with the town budget. There's lots of factors. You have to keep the taxpayers in mind.
Or we could just,
I actually keep the taxpayers in mind. I keep the taxpayer in mind, as I've done for the entire time that I've sat here on this council. And the last, forget what year it was one of the first term that I was on, that our fund balance was 12 or 13%. 12 or 13%, and we literally were skating on thin ice. Literally listening to the financial director going, you can't be here. You don't want to be here and you're in a bad place. Okay, and we had the school budget that got funded. That was the very first year in 2016. The very next year, you have to go back into history, but I remember that number went through the roof for the next year. You weren't here in 2016.
The school budget wasn't level funded in 2016, Rich. The last time it was
It-
level funded
it
was
was.
2013. No, it was not.
I was on the council and I was part of a movement that we had, it was level funded.
It wasn't, but okay. Believe me,
And-
I know this inside and out, because I've been a
Okay,
proponent
well,
for
you still
level-
weren't here that year. Okay,
Right.
and the whole point is that the very next year, the school budget went up a lot. And the town got hammered with our taxes. We were at 4%. We were at 4% increase. And we were trying to
That
find a way
portion I
not
do
to.
remember.
We were trying to find a way not to be at 4%. So please don't tell me that I am not keeping the taxpayer in mind. That's the only thing that I've ever thought of every second that I sit here. So
But I'm going to
please,
correct you. If you said that the school budget was level funded
I
in
remember-
2016,
I
it
remember-
wasn't.
I remember that the school budget had failed and it was several years ago, maybe it was 2013. But I remember the next year, it hammered us. And I remember sitting here on this council with Paul Michaud who was the president, and we were teetering around a 4% increase, thinking we had to go to the state to ask if we could ask for more.
We were looking
Okay.
at 4.3%.
So, yes, I
I
keep
was on
the
the council.
taxpayer in mind.
And that's great, but you can go on record and vote for keeping the fund balance level at 16%. Or you can decide to give the taxpayer
You're
a
not gonna
small
throw-
reprieve.
You're not gonna throw anything at me and try
We
to
know-
guilt
we
me
know
into
that,
anything.
Rich.
So
We know
please
that.
don't.
You know,
You should know, because I'm gonna stand up and nobody's gonna put a word in my mouth.
your vote will put your own words in your mouth.
I'm sitting here. Okay, I'm sitting here. And I have to make decisions, not you.
I gotta ask the exchange, I let exchanges go a lot longer than they should, and I think that's not a pleasant exchange. But I'm thinking in my head, I'd like to see 15%. I guess we'd have to make a motion and it would hang 2 to 2.
Well, 15% is more than the 228 that the taxes are going up.
Right.
So if you're going to 15, if you want to bring it all the way down to the 15%, then you have another $93,000 that you will end up.
Having to ask for next year, right?
Well,
So what
I
would you-
am just suggesting that if you are thinking of using additional fund balance, you use enough fund balance just to get it so that taxes are not increasing.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Could we find out what that number is?
It's a
Yes,
little
I
bit
have
low.
it. Well, it's the 228 that we have in the budget
Yeah.
Right.
on tax
Okay.
revenue line.
If we were to vote on something like that, that might go through.
It might.
That is what it would be. So it's whatever the additional tax revenue that was needed, and it's the amount that the school has already been approved for and will be adopted is 228,049. So if we just say we are not going to have any additional tax increase, we would be using 228,049 of fund balance.
Right, that sounds.
Knowing that it will go up next.
Still within the
Again.
fund balance policy, slightly above. We can address next year when next year comes, but it would level, no additional tax revenue is needed this year.
So we get a feel good moment for this year.
It doesn't mean that somebody's taxes may not go up.
Right.
We had a rebound.
Yeah.
But there is no additional tax revenue needed in this budget with that statement.
So in that case,
2849.
so I'd like to make a motion to make the change that you said will bring us to that point.
And I second.
So the fund balance will still be within our.
Policy.
It'd be
Well, within our
15.4%.
15 point.
whatever.
To
So
use.
$228,049.
Yep.
So there's a motion and a second,
Mhm.
so I will go and ask, is there any further discussion required, or would you like to?
I don't have a problem with this number. Just know that next year it's gonna go up. So you're gonna feel good now, but next year you're not. So, and that's fine. And if that's what, that's the game that wants to be played. All right, fine.
Okay, so how do you vote?
No,
Rich?
Sure. Yes.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
so the motion carries 3-1.
No further discussion on the,
So do we need a motion to move it to public hearing?
make a motion to move it to public hearing.
second,
Dated,
we need,
any date, do we have a date?
I think the
Yeah.
13th is the first one.
Public hearing is 8.
Yeah, 18.
Motion to move the public hearing
At
on
5.
the 18th at 5 PM.
No, so during the regular meeting at.
Oh, make it 6 PM.
Second,
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Second.
Well, we have other items.
Water.
Oh, water, sorry. Water.
I'm really sorry about this one. So this is for council discussion. Again, it relates, it does not relate to the general fund operating budget. It relates to the water fund. Pass this. Where the water fund had, just take one.
I just want to, as before you finish, I just
Yeah.
wanted to state publicly that I got an ethics committee ruling because I am on the water system and I am allowed to participate in this discussion. So I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right.
I just wanted, because I know some people question the efficacy of it.
So how do I state why we are where we are? With the consent from the Department of Health, the water fund has needed to use its fund balance, talk about fund balance, to pay for capital expenditures. We had to buy a new generator, which was about 38,000. And we've had to pay for the engineer for the chlorination system running over $100,000. If I had the $140,000 back into the water fund's fund balance, we would be in a lot better shape. Am I to say that the water fund is a balanced budget? The answer right now is no. The water fund for its operating expenses and its operating revenue is about 30,000, gonna use the round numbers, $30,000 short a year. Some of that is because we have a new water operator that came up. Actually not that much, but that raised some of the money. Inflation has raised some of the money. We have a range. of where this budget could go. From the low end, it would basically mean if we were to raise all base rates, residential, commercial, sprinklers, hydrants, and double them, we could support the operating budget. And it would balance that operating budget. If you wanted to include other items, which actually should be in a water budget, but I understand we are talking taxes, you can't increase everything all at once. To include a capital reserve, to include some engineering reserve, to include let's see, there's a basically a contracted labor reserve if we needed it. We could go all the way to doubling all rates. The usage all the way up from the 0.005 to 0.01. Or to 12, you know, and I don't recommend that at this time. Only because the first page that I gave you was an analysis of where we stand in rate comparison to what I was able to find from, where did I have to go, from the Department of Health, I think. If we were just to raise the double base and go to 140, I just did residential here because that's the majority of our customers, from the $74 a year to $148 a year.
$48 a year is nothing.
Well, that's just the base.
That's just the base rate.
If you go over, you can see the usage. So if you had 30,000 gallons, it becomes $298 a year. If you go up to the 60,000 gallons, it's $478 a year. And looking at that, it's sitting somewhere in the range, higher end, but in the range of other water supply boards. A caveat to this, another reason why I'm saying just raise the base right now is we are not sure what the debt service is going to be on the 4-log system. We don't have a quote. We haven't gone out to bid.
Is that the chlorinization?
The chlorination system. My recommendation there would probably be a special assessment for debt service across all customers. But a special assessment, not put it into the base rate so that it would come off at some point and not always be part of the base rate.
The water systems is an investment. It's not like the things that we spend money on that we see nothing of and we spend it again and again. So the water system is going to end up being connected to town hall. It might end up across the road to service whatever might get built over there. It's something that our town has that Hopkinton doesn't have, that Exeter doesn't have, and so on. So it's an investment. Now that we've gotten some money back from the RICAN and we have other money that we haven't paid out yet to different people, how much opera funds?
About 100,000 right now. We is our next discussion. So we don't need to. We don't need to address this at the moment.
Right.
ARPA is the next discussion on our agenda.
Right.
But I just wanted to let you know what I was thinking, what it's looking like. I did it by myself. I'm going to be honest. I am not a utility rate expert. If you would like, we can also spend probably $20,000 to $40,000. I hate to say that, but that's probably what it would be to have a professional person come in. They would look at our usage, who's using it, how many gallons, the gallons per day. This is basically on a straight, how much is our budget going to be, and divide it. But if the council would like, we could have an expenditure to have a professional rate study done on our water system as well.
mean, I'm without question that the rates need to go up, and they need to go up substantially, regardless of the fact that I am on the water system and don't want them to. To be responsible, we need a fund balance for the water fund too, so that when an emergency comes, when a generator breaks, when the state requires something, that we have the ability.
And this base, the double of the base does not do that. That double of the base at that point is just to cover our operating expenses with no reserve for our capital.
But if we did something in a graduated.
Right, that's why I'm saying this is the first step. At least it makes it so that what we're taking in a quarter is what's going out in a quarter. If, you know, those, again, we need that generator or the bid comes in for the four-lock system above what we have authorized to borrow and all those other things, well, then we're.
I'd like to see like a 3-tier or 3-year plan. Louise was talking about 3-year plans, a 3-year plan for the water system where first we shore it up. With,
Then
the doubling of the
we'll
rate.
talk about reserves.
then we
and-
took, yeah,
And in the meantime, and I'm absolutely in agreement with you, so that's why I said, let's shore up the budget and do the double on the base.
I think we should
Then we
double the
can-
base and the usage, because even when you do that, the number is not a bad number compared to other towns.
Well, if you double up on the usage, I
It
don't
comes
have
to
it
four
here,
seventy-eight.
a year.
Yeah, 478 plus the 148. That's not bad.
It's actually included in.
I'd like
Oh,
to
that
adopt
includes-
your, I'd like to adopt your recommendation.
So what I was gonna say is, then we have the bid in for the chlorination system.
Right,
And we can always readdress, like an assessment right, a debt service assessment, once we know what the chlorination system.
I don't even know what the base rate is. Do
That's,
we have a flat fee?
yeah, 1850 a
That's
quarter.
not what the ordinance says.
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
What is it called?
No, it has a price for 1 gallon to 30,000 gallons.
No. What's
it's
the
a basic
$74?
service fee too,
The basic service fee.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's what
that's
it
all
is.
right.
That's what I
you're
call the
talking about.
base.
Okay,
That's what I call the base, sorry, the
All right.
basic service fee, which I
okay.
call the base.
Yep.
$12.
That's a deal. My well broke twice since I moved here. Second time it was contaminated, so I had to connect, and it was the best thing I ever did.
I do think as soon as we can, that we should move as quickly as we can to having the users pay the current expense. And then we know we've gone another bill. But-
Right, so next year, or even, that's why I was asking Karen, is when we find out what the chlorination debt service is going to be, we could write into the ordinance a special assessment fee for debt service
Yeah,
for
we could.
that, at
Yeah,
that point.
we've already got one for.
We
that
have
service
one
for-
already,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So.
Yes, we could.
And so my recommendation at that point is when we know what the four-log is going to cost him, if it's above or, but I hope not, but if it's above what's been estimated. Then
Right,
we'll
we
have
could,
to
we
do
could
that as
move it
well.
up or we could move it down if we find out that it's better
Correct.
than we think. But I have to say, I am surprised that it takes years to get anything done. In government.
This is how the health department operates. It's
Yes.
been a slow go.
This is a surprise to me. That's why I don't want to wait on raising the water rates, because who knows like, how long it's gonna actually take before you actually are able to get it.
Right,
done.
every year I kept thinking,
Right.
I think it was Mike who said, how come we haven't raised them?
Right,
Because I kept thinking that the chlorination system
Was
bid
gonna
would be
happen
going out
soon.
and we would know
Right.
whether we had enough money to pay back some of the fund balance that we used or not.
right. So we should try to have it pay its way now and then know that.
It's never gonna be. It's
Why?
too small.
It is
Really?
too small.
It's too small to pay its way.
Unless you get up to,
It's very,
basically,
very, very small compared to all the other water systems.
The big problem is too, is we can't go up the hill because we need a well up the hill.
You know, pump
A
station,
pump
get the
station.
water
Right.
up the hill.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or we would need a well, which would provide the pressure.
There's a history behind that
Yeah.
too. Reason why we don't have.
Right, so I mean, I make a motion that we follow your advice
It's just, I'm just letting you know that it is just a small,
It's an ordinance amendment.
it's an
Yeah.
ordinance amendment and it is just the first step
Right.
in
And-
And what was
Understood.
that ordinance amendment, doubling the service?
doubling the service fee for
On
all
all
grades, so-
diameters?
Yes,
And,
yeah, including hydrants and sprinklers. so the
Oh, okay,
fire
that, I was
suppression.
getting to that, wait a minute. So you wanna double the annual service fee, which would be 130504 subsection C,
Okay,
right?
I'd have to look at it. I don't have the
Um,
ordinance,
Fire protection service
Yes.
charges, you wanna double all those?
double those.
Okay,
And that would still be within the range of what some of the other towns are doing.
okay.
I mean, it's fair, we have to make it work. We can't.
We can
Continue
get
to-
it closer is the way I looked at
Right.
it.
How about the connection fees you want?
No,
those the
because
same?
those are all set, those are agreements, so, and I don't see any more connections actually coming on. We don't
Plus, we
have that
want to
many left.
encourage people to connect, to diffuse the cost a little bit. I'm trying to get my two neighbors to connect though, so.
Well, there are gonna be more connections at the preserve, but that's a consecutive system.
Correct, and I'm
So-
just, I'm hoping actually the preserve uses more water.
Yeah, that would be better.
And
because-
that was the other area that we were unsure of when we put the master meter, but we believe that they are going to use a lot more water,
Yeah,
which will help our revenue in the water system.
But they're supposed to be putting in that return system, right? The water goes in and it kind of goes to a dead end. They're supposed to be putting a
oh,
return
the second,
loop.
if he puts this, if he goes, yeah, if he brings his water line down that new road, he's gonna have to put a master meter.
Right.
But, the other reason that it would help us to increase the amount of water that the preserve uses is that the more water is in the system, the less, contamination from bacteria.
I know we've
The
had a
reason that
lot
we've got this problem that we have to pay for the chlorination is that we don't have enough water customers, so the water is not moving quickly enough through the system.
But if we put that return too with the master meter, it keeps it moving in basically a circular
Oh.
motion instead
That's
of.
their system.
That's their system, not ours.
Right.
Right, she said it would.
That's
preserve
their system that
everybody.
stops when our system.
Right.
Considered under the state regulations of consecutive water system.
So we're gonna double the base rate and we're not touching the user rate? Or are we doubling the user rate?
That's I said, there's a range. That is your call.
I just want to shore it up. I don't want it to be a big money drain on the roof, because that tiny little change that we made on the town budget, which is gonna save some people some money, will be destroyed if this water system is losing money. So I'd like to see it shored up and have it, the goal would be in 3 years for us to have a little bit of a fund balance to the water system and to be able to plan further, not just wait and see what comes.
So the only thing you're recommending that changes, Laura, is the annual service charge and the fire protection service charge, but not the water rates.
That is currently what that would, yes.
Okay. This requires an ordinance amendment. So what I'll do is I'll draft the ordinance amendment for your next meeting. And you can look at it, and if you like it, you can vote to send it to public hearing.
I just want to go on record as saying I don't think that's sufficient.
Well, it's the first year of 3 years.
Good thing.
It's not sufficient.
We agree. I agree.
I
It's
agree.
not, but we'll get there over time.
So, you gotta do things gradually. You can't shock,
You can hammer them to the wall.
double somebody's water bill. You know what I mean? Hey, there you go. It was $500 last year. It's $1,000 this year. We just negated any kind of tax savings that we ever.
I just know when I lived in Smithfield, I was paying over $600 a year for water, and that was about 20 years ago.
When I lived in Warwick in 2003, I paid $1,500 a year for it.
Well, then we can raise it all tonight.
But I mean, a graduated
No,
thing, so it's
that's
not a
why,
shock.
that's why.
And with everybody going through what they're going through, the suffering that certain households, I mean, my household's not suffering, but I know a whole bunch that are. And some of them are on the water system. I just don't want to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a motion, no second.
You don't have to vote on it because they're gonna see an ordinance amendment.
And then,
No,
we'll
I
vote.
understand that, clarifying that.
Right, I withdraw my motion and follow Solicitor Ellsworth's advice. Favorite of all, our promo.
And yes, finally is the American Rescue Plan.
Hands on the right on.
I know.
This might be, is the thing in this?
No, because
Yeah, I knew you gave it to us last week, but in my infinite rush to get here, I left all of my, everything I own at home.
if you
No, but it
would-
was emailed to us right before that
Yeah.
last meeting, so you got your computer at least.
I had
And
the
I
rest
have
of
an
the
extra copy.
Can also-
I don't think you want my doodles.
I can share it.
My notes to self.
Mr. President, yeah, question about the.
Yes, please.
Discussion, business.
Sure,
So this says other budget financial matters, including ARPA allocations. Is
Mhm.
this a discussion on what is gonna come out of the next year's budget for ARPA allocations or allocating unused funds?
both,
Okay, because EDC, just to remind you, put in an ARPA request from the balance,
yeah, I think
which
it
was
was,
about 150,000. I
right,
know RICAN just gave you back more money,
right,
about 34,000. So please just keep that in mind,
Mhm.
because if economic development is a priority in
It
this
is.
council, I just want to make sure that you're keeping that in mind when
yes.
you're discussing this unused pot of money.
Thank you. I think Councilor Calasanti allocated 150,000, if I remember correctly, to the chlorinization system. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we voted on that, 150.
yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
In one of our EDC meetings, I asked Erin Lease, what was the unused portion of the ARPA money? And she told me about 124,000. So that was before last week's meeting, where RICAN gave you back about 34,000.
Right. I mean, I think it's important we
yes,
have
yes, that is the.
an economic development movement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Paper sometimes.
thank you.
I love paper. I
It
can
is the same.
put my glasses aside and
Oh,
go
it
like
is the same
that.
one. It wasn't updated with all the changes. Which is fine, I just wanted there.
Well, it is. but
Well, I
it's-
mean, like the RICAN change, that's
that's in
before
there.
their change.
Well, that's
No, that's,
the
Because-
RICAN money returned, isn't
48.
it?
Yes,
yeah,
we-
that's with the change.
With the change.
So there's a total of 96,900.
Right, but we have
Available.
things to discuss.
Really?
Right.
Right.
I should have grabbed all of them.
Paper. That's the same with the balance.
So there is one item that is pending on this.
There are a few items pending.
So one of them is the Charitable Youth Task Force. They're asking for $57,200. So they are hiring, have hired a human resource director. And that's where some of that money they want. So now we have our own human resource director. The man from
Human
RICAN,
services, you mean?
Human
the
resources
same
like
thing,
HR.
Human
No.
resource.
Human resource like oversees the whole kind of Karen Pinch. You know, she
Human
oversees
resources is more like.
You-
health insurance,
Yeah.
payroll.
What is
Yeah.
the person that is hired now?
Human
Human
services.
services.
Human services.
So with
So you
the,
have a human services person here, right, the youth task force hired their human service person.
Is it human service or human resource? That's.
No, it's human service, because they're gonna provide the same kind of things that ours is. And the man from Rycan, he was here last week, you heard him say, oh, you hired somebody to do what we're already doing. So I don't think we need to have the same service in triplicate. So I would say they should either get nothing or give them $5,000. We don't need to pay for their person. We already have a full-time or a 20-hour person doing the job.
You want to make a motion on that?
I make the motion that we give them $5,000.
The youth tax.
Thin caps on the left,
It's about
and that
half
like
of it.
2/3 of the way down.
Oh, okay, sorry, thank you. Very sorry.
Now, the youth task force, chief talked about that before. And they do a lot of good. But we shouldn't be helping them hire more people when we just hired someone. So I make a motion, I second the motion that we change our gift to the Charahoe Youth Task Force from $57,200 to $5,000.
I second that.
Are you-
Oh, I made it.
Yeah.
Why 5,000?
We'd
Well,
like to
I was
give-
being nice. I'd rather give them 0.
So just to give them something, just to say,
Right.
here's something to help support your costs.
Right.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Were they dependent on that monies, or was it,
Well, they cover all 3 towns. And
Is this
So-
one of the items that went to the finance board too? By the prior council, do you recall? Rich?
what is it?
A bunch of the items went to the finance board, and I don't remember if this was one of
try to
them.
get as many?
It did, and they recommended it.
It did, and they recommended it.
And generally, I do believe, I do support most of all the decisions that the finance board makes. I think they do a great job. But they're probably not realizing that we're doing the same, we're paying for 3 people to do the same job.
Part of it for me is just, we already, or not we, but the town did already say they were gonna get it. Or do you?
No.
No, we didn't. So they're not,
Hold on,
they're not,
I think they're pending on here.
right, so they're not
pending.
expecting it. They weren't guaranteed the money. We're not taking anything from them. Okay.
No, they went to the finance board, the recommendation came out.
So specifically, it was a certified prevention specialist that oversight of substance use prevention programming. That's 43,680. Then certified community health worker, promotion of general health and safety, housing, healthcare, food, insecurity, etc. That was 109,200, 109,200. And then advanced chemical dependency professional for 18,700, totaling $171,600 divided by the 3 towns.
So it's 3 positions, 2 of which sound very specific to substance abuse.
In the
Um,
schools, right? Within the schools?
I don't think they
No.
specifically work within the school. They work in the Fairhope area.
Actually, they don't work in the schools. My sister works for the state of Rhode Island and administers the program that works in the
Mhm.
schools.
Part of the, like the DARE program?
I don't think so.
Is there still a thing?
Wasn't when my son was on it in South Kingstown, when he was in high school.
Yeah.
It's a thing that it encourages, kids not to use drugs.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like what they're doing at Charahoe is a lot more strict than that.
It's not at Charahoe, just to
I think
clarify.
it's more of a
The Charahoe
community
Youth
thing.
Task Force is outside of Charahoe schools.
But Charahoe
Bears the name,
school-
but it does sound like it's not entirely applicative because of very specific substance abuse counselors.
Well, I think that our human service person or whatever we're calling that person now is going to be putting her attention, looking at the job description, she's going to be doing a lot with substance abuse. That's what it looks like to me.
Right, she's not a substance abuse counselor.
But the state provides substance abuse counseling to the
Mhm.
Charahoe school system in duplication of that.
It can be very, very hard to find counselors right now. They're low everywhere. It's just trying to get in to something like that. It's
Okay, so
impossible.
that-
Everybody's booked. Nobody's taking new patients. So it may be adding more to a force where it's already at its capacity. That's where I stand on it.
Right, so you could put money in that doesn't make a therapist show up. Because they're not there, not enough of them.
My sister does it for no money. She goes to the Charahoe school several times a year for free.
I remember vaguely this being chief standing up and talking about it too. I can't put my finger on it, and I'd really like to have, quite honestly, some of these people come back
Not a bad idea.
and discuss some of their stuff. Or just slashing it.
Could forward you their application. It's like a 3-page letter.
Yeah.
If it helps you at all. Or I could just,
I could,
I could read it. I mean,
I
what I
have
just
it- I have
read
it on.
was. What I just read was basically in the table of the, their little Excel chart about
Yeah.
how much money and who it was divided by, but there's narrative leading up to it.
Well, if we're looking
okay.
for money to put toward
Yeah,
economic
absolutely.
development, that could at least give us 50,000 for the money that they're asking for.
Yeah.
Can you show us what the balance of the ARPA money is on the bottom of that screen? Because we can't see it from here.
$96,965.
Not sure why it's 96,000, Aaron, when about a month ago during the EDC meeting, you had said it was 154,000.
right, we're discussing some of the pending items on them. I put it in the worksheet that we're discussing tonight.
Okay.
That's why it's revised.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I
for that
accept that.
clarification.
The Beaver River Park, we already approved that. We
I
voted
think
on
we have a
that
motion on
last.
the floor. don't we?
Yes.
Oh, so I didn't want to.
Discuss-
I didn't want to.
We're
lower that.
discussing it, which is what I'm trying to.
All
So the
right,
motion was to only give them $5,000.
right, thank you, counselor.
Okay.
So I just said.
But I didn't want to move over to Beaver River. That's what I was trying to stop.
I just sent to Erin the Charahoe Youth Task Force application. She's gonna try to open it for you. You can see the chart.
Sounds like the job description. The first paragraph.
Third page has the numbers. There you go.
That's what I just read on the left column of that chart. And in the far right column.
And honestly, now would be fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25.
So has Charleston and Hopkinton proved?
My understanding was that Hopkinton didn't fund anything in their ARPA except town projects, so I'm pretty comfortable saying Hopkinton was a no. But I don't know about Charleston.
I mean, I personally have a problem funding with ARPA money, any 501c3, any charity, because it stops being a charity when taxpayer money is funding it.
There's also a town where there's less than 2% of the people of the town don't have health insurance. So people could get a therapist if there were any around, and their insurance would pay. So why are we funding a non-volunteer organization? When people have insurance that would pay.
I can see that. When you have a very specific insurance, it may not take, you then are now limited even more on who you can go see. And if those people are taking new patients, I kind of like the idea of hearing directly from them again before cutting them out. I'm not against cutting them out. I just maybe would like to hear a little more, because it does seem that the certified community health worker is similar to what we are now providing, but the other two positions seem like they would help the issues that have caused because of COVID. You know, a lot more people are seeking out these services.
It's also a school, they're also in the school, so I think that, and it stated it right there, that they're, you know, they're working with kids in the school. School age kids.
The school actually has a counselor that comes in from the state that works with
Right.
kids as well. And I know it's part of the, what was it, the Richmond Town Council bingo. I allegedly say my church. So my church, I run a substance abuse program on Sunday nights at my church. Starts at 6 o'clock. It doesn't cost a dime. If anybody wants to come to it, we have people there, ages 17 to 65. Now, that being said, I just struggle with taxpayer money from our town going somewhere to a charity.
Doesn't the,
Yeah, I agree then.
doesn't the ARPA money have to be used for all residents? If it wasn't that one of the stipulations, it has to be, something has to be afforded for all parties.
Not the way we are categorizing our money. Our money is being categorized as revenue replacement.
If we were basically a large city or town, right, we would have to it would basically have to be associated with COVID and the fallout of COVID, but being that we're under a certain dollar amount, I believe it was $10 million, we are able to basically use it for anything within the parameters, but
Right,
it doesn't.
We
have to
can't, we
be-
can't lower our budget. We can't
Right.
use it for pension.
But we could use it to hire an economic development director in the same way that we hired a
Wellness.
human service.
services.
Correct.
Even if we did like a 2-year contract with no future.
We've got to do something where and I would rather see the opera funds that were awarded to the town of Richmond be used exclusively in the town of Richmond.
Yeah, I agree with
I
you
will,
there.
I will state publicly that I have a family who works in drug and alcohol addiction counseling. My mother, my stepfather, 2 of my sisters, and I have a cousin. I also have several people in my family that have passed away due to drug overdoses. One person passed away in my arms. I'm very emotional about this, but I'm also convicted that we shouldn't be using taxpayer funds when we have so much that we need to do in this town.
And I think we shouldn't forget that Wood River Health, they have substance abuse counselors,
For free.
well, free, or if you have insurance, then your insurance will pay. They have a program. It's called a peer program, where they have people that they pay who will go out to homes or hospitals or shelters to people who have substance abuse problems and work with them. They have a lot of resources. And they have people there working to provide these services.
On Tuesday, I took a friend of mine to Wood River Health Center for those services, which were at no cost to them. So it is available.
If you haven't been to the facility, it's very nice. you've been there, I think.
There's a
Motion on the floor. So with that being said, and any further comments? So how do you vote?
I,
Aye.
Just restate the motions for the record, so everybody's crystal clear what they're voting on.
Okay, the motion that I made was to change,
Ellen
oh,
made-
sorry, that Helen made. Was to change the funding, update the funding from $57,200. To change that to $5,000.
Thank you.
How do you vote?
Yes,
Yeah, yes.
Okay, motion carries.
So there are other items still pending.
well, the other question was Wood River Health. I don't think we actually, looks like it was if we didn't give them anything of the money.
we give them 50,000 and 20.
So we have a contract for 50,000, but the next 2 years funding is the 50.
So I would like to make a motion. To not fund those next 2 years. They just did a capital. Capital campaign. They made a whole lot of money. They do wonderful things, and I'm not saying that. I'm suggesting that we take this money away as a punishment for punitive action. I just feel again that. This money was given to the town of Richmond to be used in the town of Richmond. And although the people of the town of Richmond go there, they're flush with funds. They're functioning without shortfall. And so I make a motion that we stop any further payments to them. It's time for Mark.
I second that. They also, besides getting millions from ARPA, from the, American Rescue Plan, they also got another million something just recently. So they really, they
I
don't
mean, they perform a wonderful service and,
do.
and without them, the region would be seriously hurt.
Right.
But, and if they were hurting, I'd have no problem doing something, but I mean,
They're not.
No.
so with that being said, ask for a vote, or do you have?
No, I agree. I'm a yes.
Yes? Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So we've got $100,000 from that we return back to the,
So the next item that could be discussed is that we did get the state came back at us on the water line. With the bid, and we need an additional 89,335. It is already in your worksheet. That is the
Yes, yeah.
difference. On this, the bid came in so that it would be, it was 292,660.50. And we already have some engineering costs. So right now it's at 299,335. And that's already on your worksheet. I just,
and
we need approval for the additional
89.
89.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the additional money required because it's a set expense for the town.
Second that.
And
So
Any
we're
fur-
doing 150 for the chlorination, and then we're doing 300,000 for the water line?
no, it's an additional 89,335 for the water line to connect to town hall.
That's what was already approved, I believe. So that's what it's gonna be updated to. That's what the water line's
It's
getting.
an adjustment, an $89,335 adjustment.
This is to hook up town hall, not, this isn't helping the water customers, this is helping
The town,
the.
because the
Okay.
water here is destroying the,
All the
All right,
fixtures.
so the
Yeah.
299,335, what is that?
it's not on the list though.
It's under
Should be.
updated if you just go like 2
Updated.
columns over from where
Yeah,
we just were.
yeah, but that's already been approved.
Some of it has, all but the 89.
Yeah.
and
Right.
35.
Right, but what Counselor Steen is asking is, what is it? What does that number make up of?
It's taking the water line from Richmond School through around whatever the roundabout and to connect the town hall and be able to have access to for Richmond Townhouse for water if they need it.
Now, is it also going over to the?
Yeah, that's-
Yeah. That's for
Yeah, so
Richmond.
that's,
Well, this amount is only getting it here,
Here,
right?
correct,
it
but
will
there's a
obviously be
curb
much
stop.
Closer
right,
to over there.
and they can probably, with technology,
Yes.
they don't have to dig up the road to fish the line. So I made that motion to approve that. It's been seconded.
Okay, fine.
Aye.
All set.
And then the RICAN changed to 48,000. That had not been approved yet.
Motion to approve.
What, I thought last time, in
Did
the
we
last
approve the
session, I
RICAN?
thought we changed it to 24,000.
We made
Yeah,
changes.
I think they did at the last meeting.
And that's what I
uh,
asked when you gave me the new sheet. I said, RICAN's not adjusted in the new sheet, this one you gave me. Cause it's still the same one I had from before RICAN.
Okay, so
They only gave them they
So-
didn't give them the parking rates.
No,
24, I missed it, sorry, I was probably.
what,
So is it-
30?
Two $14,000 projects, right? That's what it was.
Yeah,
Okay, so
28.
it went to 14?
28.
Oh, it is 28 on my worksheet.
48. on
Oh,
mine.
it's 48. I'm sorry.
it's 28, I thought it was 24 we did.
It was 34. It was 34,000. It was a $20,000 structural improvement and a payment of 14,000 for the water, and we decided not to give them money to improve their lighting.
Or was it just 14?
No, it's 34.
So it should be 34?
Total.
34,000.
Thank you.
I was
Well,
gonna
that
say
would
I
make
have a
sense,
computer.
that would make sense, but I had it at 48,
And
so
then-
that would
and
make
then
sense.
They
Wow.
returned like
Okay.
46,000.
Right, and I had it at 48, the revised I
easy
had
to
at
write it down.
48, so that makes total sense. Okay, so I guess it's pending at 34,000.
Oh, I see it. I see
And then.
But we
you still
approved it
have
at our
Beaver
last meeting,
River as
so it's not
pending.
in.
What's that?
You still have Beaver River as pending, but they.
I did,
approved
but
that
they
at the-
approved that.
Okay.
But I thought
You approved that.
we approved them 20,000.
Then you approved an additional 30 at the last meeting.
it. Yeah,
Cause we didn't want a half-done park. We wanted the park to just be completely done.
So as I have it, I have 263, 165 available.
And now this thing, iParametrics Consulting, do we need them? Because we already figured out how we're
Yeah.
spending the money.
That's the
Yeah.
administration of the grants.
It's not just figuring out how to spend it, it's also making sure we comply with the requirements, because if we don't report it and do it properly, we can.
All right, so is it gonna cost us the full 34?
I hope not. But let me get through the first reporting cycle, which
Okay.
is in April.
Okay.
I have a call set up. I am not having them actually submit the report. I'm going to submit it, but they're going to review all the paperwork.
Okay.
I'm trying.
excuse me.
The only other thing I think's not. It's approved, but we haven't done anything with it yet as Chairman Lilly.
No, they didn't put in a request, I don't.
Yes, they did.
That was
They
They
did,
were-
but they've never, I don't think they've ever come back to us.
They
after
they
it's
have
approved.
not come to ask for their agreement to be signed or.
Can I make a motion to remove it?
Second,
When you sign up for a Little League every year, you pay a fee. That fee goes to pay the umps and equipment and whatnot,
And if I remember correctly from just listening, that they wanted it to upgrade their,
all of their
their,
equipment.
yeah, their
all of
helmets, their bats, everything like that, but Little League started, right? They might not need it, and they can come back and ask if they do still need it. I'd like to leave that open.
Okay.
And we'll figure it out then.
All those in favor of removing the, how much is it, 10,000?
It's-
That's
it's
fine.
$5,000 from the Little League?
aye.
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 Passes.
I have 268, 165.
Now, I keep asking about this safe project for Richmond Elementary. I know you said that Tara Ho is in charge of it. And I heard you, something might be moving, but
Yes, they bid it out from what I understand. I think the
Well, there's
ballistic
big shield.
shields were bid out and awarded. But I don't, have we
And I-
paid anything to it?
No, no. They're gonna just submit to me a voucher and I'm going to reimburse them. I also know they've gone forward with, I think they have to put the sheeting on the windows. I think, so it's,
Safety shield, so that you can't see through, they can see out, but you
Yeah.
can't see in.
yeah,
Glass or whatever.
But it's also to capture, I know that someone on the school committee who works with firearms was testing some glass with some of that ballistic material on it. It really does slow down shells and
I just would like to see it happen. That's all.
oh, it is, it
It's
is.
kind of out
happening.
of our control, though. It's definitely in motion. We've given the money, that's like saying we want Rycan to speed up, and someone else
Right.
to speed up,
No.
like I can't.
I get it.
we have enough money to,
Now we, oh,
Worked
right,
on it.
Matty Potts already got their money.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was everything that was pending. There's nothing else that we could even
Okay, yeah.
do anything with.
okay. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?